Hello, my name is Kim McManus, and it's so great to be with you. I live in Hollywood, California with my family. We've been here for over 28 years. I have 2 daughters and a son. Mariah's in music, Aaron's in production and all design and all of creativity, and my husband is Erwin McManus, and we've been married for 36 years, I think. And yes, we love our lives. We have amazing ministry here at Mosaic, our church. And yeah, it's just been great. This great challenge of 2020, right? The great challenge of 2020. Let's talk about it. One of the things I've been thinking about, some of the things I've been thinking about, and I want to talk about today is just the idea of, now that we have time, let's just fathom a little bit. Let's just fathom, let's just take in, is this what it's supposed to be like? Is this my life? Is this God's original intent of me as a woman? Can we just go there and just say, life is not usual. Life cannot be usual. My daughter, Patty came to us from Mexico, and she was 16 years old. She teaches kindergarten. We adore Patty. She was telling me this story. One day in kindergarten, she was sitting down with her kids, and she teaches in a Christian school, and she was like getting in there and about being created. And one kid raised their hand and said, I want to be a unicorn. And another kid said, and I want to be a puppy. And Patty, my Patty, being very, very black and white, she's like, no, I'm sorry. Kids, you cannot choose to be a unicorn or a puppy. God made you human. God made you human. And it was like the light turned on in the classroom, and the unicorn started, no, I'm human? He said, I'm human? I don't want to be human. But the reality is that's what we are. And we are not unicorns. We are all created with this ability to fight for our survival. You know, we go after that first piece of fried chicken. We go, like we have this driving curiosity that leads us to places that says, oh, you know what? I think I have some legs, and I think they are meant to walk and to go places. We have this ability to accumulate knowledge, to say, hey, this is a key. This key, when I put it in this door, unlocks things. And hey, I think there's another key. I can unlock that door. And we get into places. That's what we are as humans. We have the capacity to connect dots. We're human. We create beauty in the world. And then we just think, like, I can take this really bland color, mix it with a bunch of other colors, and I get masterpieces. And that was put in me. That was put in you. You have desire. I just think we always downplay all the things. We just say, oh, being human is just like, oh, I'm just human. But God gave you this ability of desire, of passion, of intrigue, of the mysterious. We can explore all of those things. And with passion and desire, God has given us the ability to have intimacy. We are containers of love. We are both physical and mental and spiritual. And that spirit is always searching for the one true God, as it should be, right? And we are human. But something happened, right? We always think about, oh, it was the big fall. But what happened before the fall? Look at how glorious it was to be human in Genesis 1:26. This is what it says. It says, Then God said, let us make mankind in our image, in our likeness. So that drive for survival and that desire in you for intimacy and that creating of beauty was a characteristic of who God was himself. Let us make in our own image, in our own likeness, and so that they may rule over the fish in the sea and the birds in the air, over the livestock and all of the wild animals, and over all the creatures that move along the ground. For God created mankind in his own image, in the image of God. He created them, male and female. He created them. And so here we are. How beautiful she was. In Genesis, we are the image of God in his likeness. And that means, first of all, we were like God in his character. We were like God. There is a time, right? That beautiful moment before the big fall, where there was all relationship. All of the relationship were whole and true and right. Eve's relationship with her husband, their relationship with nature, and most of all, their relationship with God. Eve, she was genius. She was pure communion with God. She had intimacy without shame. But something happened, right? We all know that something happened. Here, something was taken away. Now, when I was a little girl, I understand what the idea of what taken away meant. I was taken away from my mom and dad, and I was put in a foster home because there were so many of us. There were 9 kids. There were 9 kids struggling along with my mom and dad, who were both serious alcoholics. Now, I grew up in the South, and my story seems quite familiar because so many has my same story, right? But that's part of what was taken away. That was part of God made us rare, and we became common, and my story became way too common. It became the struggle and the fight for survival, the fight for, okay, how do I grow up having been stripped and taken away and put in foster care? How do I then make that? How does God ever redeem that? So God made us rare, but our stories became all too commonly broken. God made us real, and then we strove to become perfect or photoshopped or something that wasn't real at all. God made us completely unique, and we became stereotypical. And I didn't want to come from a stereotypical family. I didn't want our story to be all of brokenness and alcoholism and how the government had to rescue us, but it was that. I know now, on the other side of redemption, what that means. But in the time, I know my story was supposed to be brilliantly unique. And why did it become so stereotypically cliche? God created us true. And somehow we traded those truths for lies. And in my own family, generationally, I saw that we traded alcohol We traded living for the illusion that alcohol could make us alive. And so when that was destroyed, my mother would believe another lie, which was, men can rescue me from poverty. And so when that did not happen, she traded one man, my father, for another. And the one man was abusive, and then the second man was worse. When we moved from Charlotte, North Carolina, our whole life, and we ran away to our new life in Asheville, we realized we were trading one life for another, one brokenness for another. And so then that lie became, I will accept anything, and I will just have more children to stay in this bad relationship. So my mom had another baby and another baby and another baby, and losing the ability to provide for us sent us into a life of poverty. And so when we had this God-given ability for truth, we lost it somewhere along the way. And I've always been, as a child, seeking to regain what it was that was lost in truth. God gave us beauty, and we thought that beauty meant being seductive and it becoming a property of. And I realized that when God redeemed me, I would try to regain that life of beauty again. But people hurt us, and we became discarded and neglected. And I felt that neglect when my mom, decided this is too much, and she left us in a home, completely abandoned. 6 kids, no electricity, no food. She herself beaten up by a drunk the night before. And when she abandoned us in that home, it was a real turning point for me. What was meant to be a treasure became a life of disaster. And neglect turned to foster care. Now my life was defined by what foster care would be. He put this perfect nature in us. How could it now become so corrupt? That God gave us purity, and now purity had become about it was intimacy, but now it's transactional sex. That God gave us innocence, and innocence was lost. But what happened? In 1977, Panine Barcelone took on the commission of restoring Leonardo da Vinci's The Last Supper. Now, Leonardo da Vinci, when he painted The Last Supper in 1498, it was already considered a masterpiece. A masterpiece. And hundreds of years later, and many, many, many attempts at restoration, it had failed. It was covered in soot and wax and debris and smoke. It was covered in, even in the 1700s when it was trying to be restored by amateur hackers. They tried to impose their own sense of interpretation, and they replaced who these characters were at the Last Supper of Jesus. And so the images were painted over again and again down through the ages. And their lives were filled in with paint and wax and all of the debris of the centuries. And over time, these beautiful images of these men sitting at the table of Jesus took on someone else's interpretation. Sometimes I feel like that in my own life, in our own lives. We take on the interpretation of someone else. But God had this beautiful intention for your life, and somebody else has come and redefined what that life is supposed to be. Our time together, let us try and pray that God would restore that original intention of your life. And so this is who you are. This is who you are. You have the power to resist forces without breaking or yielding. I had to discover that, right? I had to discover that in this determination to survive the years of my youth, that I have the power to resist the forces that are beyond my control without breaking or yielding, and that you determine to live in the truth, that you set yourself up to reject lies and you live in the truth. This is who you are. Your energy is not generated by your emotions, right? But your mental toughness and rugged determination. This is who you are. This is who you are. Your struggles are useful. They are not debilitating. This is who you are. You have this rare honesty that elevates your relationships, because this is who you are. You use your struggles to empower and not overpower. Your heart is mighty for the task of serving others before yourself without losing yourself, because this is who you are. You fight with humble ability to win great battles. You generate good in the world. You have a voice that is life-giving. And that heart of yours, that heart that God placed inside of your body, it is a heart totally transformed and sold out to Jesus. You know, that's who you are. It says in 2 Corinthians 3, it says, "Now the Lord is a spirit, and where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is freedom. And we all, with unveiled faces, we reflect, we contemplate, we fathom the Lord's glory, and we are being transformed into his image with ever increasing glory," which comes from the Lord, who is the Spirit. Now the Lord is the Spirit, and where the Spirit of the Lord is, yours is the freedom. And we all with unveiled faces. I love that one day we will have unveiled faces. You know, the masks are gonna come off, and then there's gonna have another mask, and you won't be able to see that mask, because we know how. Don't we know how? We know how to become something that we are not. And then that mask is gonna come off, and God is gonna see, look at you. You're as rare and as perfect as I've ever known you to be. You are the original you. You are created exactly in my image, exactly how I formed you, and then I transformed you. Do you know what that is? Do you know what it took for Panine Barcelon to do the work that she had to do on that portrait of that beautiful masterpiece? It said this: she went millimeter by millimeter, frame by frame. She said, if in one day you could take one postage stamp of that grand masterpiece, and you've accomplished the postage stamp, you would have been successful. She said it was over 23 years of restoration, over 23 years of painstaking removal of things that had been placed on this masterpiece to be removed. 23 years of what Panine Barcelon called a slow, severe conquest. It says, and we all, who with unveiled faces contemplate the Lord's glory. What is the Lord's glory? This word doxa appears throughout the scriptures. And it seems like it belongs to God and not us. And God said, I give you my glory, the part of God that is at his essence, everything that is good, everything that is beautiful, everything that is true. God gives in his essence to you. And he said, I will transform, and you will be transformed into his image with ever-increasing glory, ever-increasing goodness, ever-increasing beauty, ever-increasing truth. The raw essence of who God is should be in you, should be all over you, and should be coming out and be represented in your children, in your relationships. It is the glory of God in you. And he says, I'm going to transform you, even if it takes 23 years, even if it takes your whole life. Your genetics is not your destiny. Even the life you've created and missed and broken yourselves and gotten it wrong 1,000 times, God says, I can make all things new. I can transform you. So original girl, original person that you are supposed to be that. Be that. God transforms. You know, my life is of anything. That is the story of my life. That God can take the brokenness and he can bring wholeness. In verse 18 it says, we all who with unveiled faces contemplate the Lord's glory are being transformed into his image with ever-increasing glory. When I went into a foster home with nothing, I met two people. Their names were Ruth and Theodore, and they were to be my new parents. Now, I was only supposed to be there a little time, and I didn't know why I arrived at their house. When God's original intention is supposed to be for families to stay together and thrive and love one another, and moms are supposed to be with dads and kids are supposed to be loved by moms and dads, why it failed so terribly with mine. And then I met Ruth and Theodore, and their home was warm and clean, and they had everything I needed. When I didn't have food with my family, they had warm meals. When I didn't have a bed, they had clean sheets and a bed for me. When I didn't know and I didn't have a schedule for my life then became disciplined. Hard work, do my homework, attend school. Every day, I had perfect attendance year after year after year. And it was my Father's glory to say, Theodore Davis always said, you are going to school every day of your life. You see, I had only known school as optional. That got in me, and I said, education is so important. And I just did the next thing, and I just did the next thing. I just did the next frame, and frame by frame, and millimeter by millimeter, and layer by layer, things began to fall off of me, and things began to happen to me as things became real. And God showed up in my living room one day, and he said, I am with you. Just, what? That's unexpected. But I didn't realize he was making my life into a masterpiece. He was returning its original value, its original worth to me. He was giving me back a life that was true. And he said, if you follow me and you make me your father. That was a word that had been corrupted. Father. I had a father. And really, I remember the day I stood over his grave and I looked at it and I said, it means nothing to me. You mean nothing to me. You never rescued me. You never took care of me. You never loved me like a father. And I walked away, and he said, I will be your father and I will guide you. And I will never, ever leave you or forsake you. And so God met me there in that moment. And he said, now do this. And I said, okay, I'll do this. I trusted him. I trusted him. I trusted him, and he would be He would be everything I needed because I had nothing. And I stayed there in that home, and I stayed there letting God do the work. And later I would accuse God. Why God? Why was that my life? And God said to me, I was hiding you, Kim. I was hiding you. I was hiding you from becoming what everybody in your family had become, the choices that had made. I was hiding you from those choices. I was hiding you. I was protecting you. I was covering you. I was showing you my favor. Maybe that's what God is showing you today. Ruth Davis and Theodore Davis, they would know Jesus because I was in their home. Because I would meet a man and his name was Erwin. And Erwin brought Jesus to my mom and dad. Erwin brought Jesus into that home. And I'm like, oh, I can have a relationship. I can also have a marriage. I can also have children that are whole, that don't have to take on my brokenness, that I can fight for their survival, that I can fight for the good in their life, that I can fight that they would have a beautiful life, that they would have a true life. And see, that is what being transformed in the image where your ever-increasing glory goes, is that the next generation be a reflection of how God has worked in your life, that you do not wear the same things that the last generation wore, and that God, that you discard them, and that God gives you an unveiled face, a true face, a beautiful face, a right face to fight those battles, to go beyond the struggle, to be whole, to be complete. I pray that for you. I pray that for you because I found that myself in Jesus. I found that in following him. I found this is a good life. And now we're sitting at 2020, right? We're sitting at 2020 and I'm like, Jesus, if I didn't have you, I couldn't survive. I couldn't go on. What do I have? I don't have anything to offer except the goodness of Jesus, of that what God created, what he meant for my life in the beginning is being ever transformed, ever restored, ever be made whole, ever be made complete. And that is what is happening and can happen in your life as well. I don't know your journey. I don't know what's happening with you at home during this time. But let me just say this. Can you consider the fact that maybe how God always intended your life to be, he can also restore? Some of you need to take off your masks. How do you do that? How do you take off the mask behind the mask? The one that said, this isn't really me. I want to be transformed by God. I want to change. I want to grow. Well, today is the day. Today is the day that you take off the big mask. And it says, with unveiled faces, we reflect the Lord's glory. The glory that was supposed to be ever growing in your favor. The one that says you're supposed to be whole. How do you do that? You come to the line of faith. You lay it all out. You say the truth. You don't hide the truth. You do some confessing. You do some unloading. And you do some praying. And this is what you pray. Jesus, I give you my life. I give you my whole life. Here I am. Be completely honest because, honestly, he saw you, the real you, all along. And he was willing at any moment along the way to receive you. And at this moment, you receive him. You just say, God, come in me, surround me, take over, be God of my life. Jesus. When you call out to him, I've called out 10 million times over the journey with him. He just gets in there and he tells you a little truth. He transforms you completely. He walks the journey with you. And then along the way, you raise your hand and ask for help. And he's there. He says, I will help you. I will hear you. I will keep you. until the very end, and when it ends for all eternity afterwards. And that's what you receive, the Jesus who is complete Savior of all things human. Not the unicorn, not the bunny. You are human. And I pray that you pray that prayer today. Jesus, I give you my life. And then he does the work. It's the first prayer, but it's not the last prayer. It's one of many, many conversations that you're going to have with them. And many times you'll raise your hand and ask for help. And many times people are going to surround you and say, I'm here to help you. And then there'll be those times when you show up to help someone else get along and to become whole again. Because that's what being human is, right? We're helping each other. We're loving each other. We're receiving the love that God has for us. And I just pray right now, I just want to pray a blessing on you as our time comes to a close. God, I pray right now over every home, over every household, every man, every woman, every child. God, I pray your Spirit would dwell, your Spirit would head, your Spirit would lead. God, I pray for victory over weakness, for the ability to fight the struggles, to stand strong, to be empowered, to love well, to serve one another, to care for our neighbors, to do the work that you've called us to do in strength. God, that we are strong, we are more and not less. That God, that you have put us in places of strength and wholeness, and that's where we stand. And God, I pray that we would stand in your will, stand in your transformation, stand in your glory. God, I pray this in Jesus' name. Amen. Thank you. Thank you, guys. Have the best day. And on behalf of our family and the family at Mosaic, we love you and we miss your faces. You're the best. God bless you.